If you look to the right of your map, you can see a big red blotch there, a rectangle. That's a proposed 40-space trailhead that will be associated with Phase 10. And just to the left of there would be the potential location for the historic bridge. And along with that will be plaques and a guided tour, kiosks and things, because again, remember, this is probably only one of two bridges like this in the nation anymore, with this Z-type bracing and structure. And if you're a bridge fanatic, they say people will come to see this, you know. And we think, too, we can make it a really nice complementary feature along with the rail trail, and who knows how it gets used, you know, over time. So it's an exciting addition to the rail trail. This whole Phase 10 project is about 2.5 miles long. This only shows you a portion of it, but if you look to the left, again, thanks to your support, we do have an easement now through the City of Lebanon Authority property right there at US Route 22. That long-term easement has been approved. It's being registered here at the county as we speak. The trail moves off the railroad grade there, goes through the lease, long-term linear lease with the City Authority, and then back onto the towpath that we bought from John Light, okay? And then it takes us all the way up, almost to Swatara State Park property. So this Phase 10, a big project, again, 2.5 miles, $2.8 million. We want to meet with PennDOT and DCNR in 2018 to talk about grant opportunities. We're going to be starting the detailed survey work soon on this location. John is sending out notice of intent letters to all the neighboring property owners, because if we walk on their property, we want to know that we're out there just surveying our property, the property that LVRT Inc. bought and you eventually will own, and it'll be a part of the trail. Just so you know, and maybe you want to participate, Jamie or anyone, we're looking at March 16th for a potential walking guided tour of the historic features of the canal in this area, because there's supposedly some amazing stuff that we now own that's a part of Phase 10. And we want to get the Conservancy and lots of other groups involved in that, but we're probably going to do this walking tour March 16, just to get a sense. And there's one feature, I didn't bring my notes with me, but there is some kind of lock out there that only one other one exists in the whole nation. Sort of gives me the goosebumps thinking about that.
No, we're not going to move that.
No, we're not moving that. No, we are not moving that. But again, it just gives us opportunities to go after other grants and other funding mechanisms to make all of this a reality. So it's really an exciting project. And, you know, how we advance all this, that'll become clearer, I would say, in the next, 3 to 6 months. John, do you want to add?
And the only other thing I would add to Tom's information would be just that the one location having the bridge off the trail was a consideration that we discussed both with PennDOT and I think just the long-term use of the trail, that to have the historic bridge, given it now being more of a showcase for people to walk on versus placing it actually on the alignment with the trail, should we ever need to take vehicles or stuff over it, that it could, that may affect how it would be able to be used. So it made more logical sense that we would have it as a sidebar that you could go visit versus being, something that's functional with the trail, because it probably would be limited in how it could.
DCNR, John, has not agreed at the highest levels, Cindy Dunn and others underneath her, to place the historic bridge on Swatara State Park property close to its existing location where it's been for all these years. It's just too problematic for them to address a long-term lease on their land, and how's it maintained and how do you gain access to it, and there's a whole variety of issues at play there, and they just don't want us to put it there.
Would it be cost prohibitive? I know it would add to the cost to just make a little loop off the trail and over the bridge. It wouldn't be the main trail.
Well, I think that's something we could look at, Commissioner. Are you saying at this new proposed
Yeah.
location? Yes, oh yeah, yes.
Yeah, in fact, even Federal Highway is actually, John
Yeah, John
Crum had
Crum.
some pony bridges from another site that, there's a couple places where we may need, maybe not as big as Inwood, but some smaller structures, and they've offered them as a potential option that we could bring to use on part of this trail, but I think that's still being thought
If
of.
you're somewhere else on the rail trail when it exists from Lancaster County to Schuylkill County, you know, I would think we'll want some sort of sign that say historic Inwood Iron Bridge off this little mini trail and have a little access trail that gets you to it, you know, so you can see it and appreciate it.
Well, I guess some of our cultural resource evaluations may determine how exactly, you know, if you did want to put a connection to
Yes.
where, you know, you're not
Yeah.
putting it over anything that would be.
Yeah, just know, and we don't know the location, but when we first proposed to doing Inwood, we have to do outreach to the Indian tribes that once lived here. And one of the tribes did tell us somewhere in this area is something very sacred to them. They won't tell us where, obviously, they don't have to tell us where, but that's why you've got to do all these sorts of studies so that you avoid those sorts of things. And, you know, the engineers and historians and others do all that sort of research, but somewhere out here is something pretty neat.
Yeah, and what PennDOT did following our call is they sort of did what I guess John Bachman would call sort of a virtual in-house evaluation.
Yeah.
They pull the area up, they have their different layers of data, and then they kind of look and see, is anything showing up at the location in which we're looking at? And then ultimately that will drive, you know, going out and doing some of the field survey work, but are there any really big hits that, you know, it comes up that there could be something right in the location that we're looking at that we need to understand?
Yeah. And we'll know all those things in a few months. We have to know those things to clear the environmental document. But that's where we are. We just wanted to give you an update. Jamie thought it was important. We all met, you know, on this a few weeks ago, and Jamie just said we should just come in and give you a briefing.
If I may, I think it's really important that you do pursue the bridges, because that's a part of transportation. And one of the things I remember when the whole park was being discussed for development was that if you think about that pass through the mountain, it's a transportation artery, very historic. Started out as Indian trails.
Oh, sure.
And of course the river itself.
Mhm.
And then you have Old State Road, and then you have Old Route 72, whatever you want to call it. But then there was another road down lower, and then they moved it higher, and then you have 81 up on top, and you now you have the rail trail, and you have the water trail, and so this pass through the mountain historically has been a transportation artery. I have not seen that interpreted anywhere, and so this would be an opportunity to interpret the transportation aspect, and with PennDOT being so heavily involved in funding, I think that would be a real, you know, something they might be interested in.
Okay, I'll pass that on, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, because there's a component when you think of the Union Canal.
Oh my
and
gosh,
everything
I didn't mention
yeah.
that, duh,
Oh,
Union
yeah.
Canal. But that's what I was saying, there's this whole transportation just through that one little pass in the mountain, and nowhere do I have I seen the big picture graphed out or what.
Well, I guess in the Swatara Creek would have been one too, that would have been an easy.
Yes, that's what I said, the river itself, yeah.
Well, no, I'll pass that on, John, because as Mark Wilson and his engineers and as Skelly and Lloyd and others look at this, that kind of interpretation could be part of the environmental clearance document. Sure, sure, those things are often done. You know, we built the 9th and 10th Street bridges, and a whole, you know, detailed analysis was done of all the things that existed around it, and a book was produced, you know. So those things are easily done. Okay,
I
good.
just find it fascinating if you stand there and think about who else traveled this path.
And on a sour note, but anything on the Meily appeal or the litigation
I have not heard anything new. I know our lawyers are preparing their testimony and their information, and they've contacted me, and they've probably contacted you.
there? Is there a date?
I have not heard one. I know John Wingert in an email that I saw asked for a date, but I haven't seen a response back. There
Last
was
I
one.
saw, it was still in the period where the Meiley's attorney could respond.
Oh, like fact
For a
finding?
filing?
Yeah.
Well, just a
Oh,
response.
oh, file a response, okay.